Welcome back to the Resale Stack, where we break down what it really takes to build and scale a successful resale business. I'm Jackie, CEO of Trendful.
And I'm Mailys, CTO and co-founder. In our last episode, we talked boldly about how resale businesses source inventory, and today we are zooming in on the most powerful source, your customers.
And we're going to walk through the three main methods. That's buyout, consignment, and store credit, also sometimes called trade-in, and sharing what we've learned from working with resale merchants of all sizes.
Plus, stick around till the end because we have an exciting surprise and a preview of our first ever guest speakers coming next episode.
I'm so excited to tease out who we're going to speak to next week.
Yeah, they are very good guests and they have had a lot of success and still having success.
Yeah, they're a great story to hear and learn from too. So let's get started. So, when a resale business starts out sourcing from their customer base, it can feel intimidating. But it's usually, I think, the most sustainable and even margin friendly way a business can grow.
Yeah, you're really tapping into a circular ecosystem. So sellers become buyers and then buyers become sellers, and that keeps the inventory flowing.
How you acquire that inventory, buyouts, consignment, or store credit really impacts your cash flow, your operations, and your margins. And that's exactly why we built Trendful software to help automate and streamline how resale businesses handle these different acquisition models.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about buyout first, because this is where most businesses actually start.
Yeah, I think buyouts are kind of the natural process for a business to start with. It even though it maybe seem a little bit counterintuitive, it's because you are paying upfront for an item, so it may seem riskier. But we actually see merchants go this way when they're first starting because you can usually acquire inventory at a lower cost, which means you have some better margins when the item actually sells what you actually sell the item for.
Yeah, you are controlling the pricing, the timeline of when you want to list and sell the item, and you're really building trust with the sellers through fast payouts.
Something we noticed is that when merchants get started and they start scaling their business further, it's not buyouts alone aren't necessarily the most scalable route a merchant can take. As your volume grows, so does your inventory risk. And this can get capital intensive if you're just doing buyouts.
Yeah, you will need a lot of cash on hand to buy out even just 20, 30 items start getting intensive. But by then, hopefully, with buyouts, you have built trust with a lot of sellers that might have become buyers, as I was mentioning, or vice versa. And you can start exploring consignment with them. And managing both buyouts and consignments manually can get messy pretty fast, but that's where Trendful SaaS products, so our resell app, the admin back office, and the price database help by automating those workflows and tracking everything in one place.
I would say even some businesses only doing buyouts, it can get messy too. But that just depends on like how much volume you're doing with buyouts as well. But we can skip into consignment. So with consignments, typically you're only paying the customer after an item sells. So there is no upfront inventory risk for you, which I think is one of the biggest benefits.
Yeah, that's the biggest benefit. You don't have to invest any money if especially when scaling, it helps preserve your cash flow while keeping your inventory fresh. So there are different ways you can do it, but generally merchants have terms in which that if a consignment doesn't sell within 90 days, for example, that's a pretty average timeline, then the consignor can either choose to repeat the consignment with you or get their item back. But if you think as a merchant that you're not going to be able to sell the item for a good margin, you can also decide to just send the item back to the consignor.
Yeah, I think some of the other trade-offs are with consignment are, since it is consignment, you don't own that inventory. It's owned by your customer that's selling to you. And so you have a bit less control over it too. So as Mailys mentioned, you might have to send it back after 90 days if it doesn't sell. And the other trade-off I would say is margin. Since sellers typically get a higher payout on consignment, your business may earn less per item, but you could be doing a larger volume too, I would say, because you could be having more volume come in because you don't have that upfront cost with it. It's just a
Yeah,
trade-off you have to think of.
yeah, you had different trade-offs based on the option that you choose, buyout or consignment. Something I would say also with consignment, as you already kind of mentioned it, is that consigners have more expectation. And so that leads to more operational complexity. You need to offer tracking for shipment, inventory updates, meaning when the items is listed and when the item is sold. You have to send notification to your sellers and timely payouts as well. And so that, in addition to also doing buyouts, can get like a lot pretty fast.
Yeah, I think you even mentioned last episode about like the number of our clients, even who do consignment, all of the back and forth emails that they may have with a customer who's selling their item on consignment with them. It can get to be a lot. And that's kind of why we created Trendful software to be able to kind of handle that back and forth, to keep your customer as notified as much as possible about their item without having to dig through your email or things like that. So it's kind of why we built Trendful, so resale businesses can run consignment operations without the need of like spreadsheets or Google Sheets or missing payouts or having to manually update customers about each step in the resale process. They have all of that with the resale app, and then the merchants have that with the admin dashboard.
Yeah, we really try to take all the nitty-gritty communication out of your hands with Trendful. But let's talk about store credits or trade-ins, as you said. They can be named different ways. This model doesn't usually come into play until a resale business already has a strong buyer community, because obviously if customer wants store credit, means that they want to purchase another item from you. So usually you have to build a good community and trust before reaching that point.
But it is like a great thing to have. Like as you get bigger, it's a great retention strategy. You're encouraging repeat purchases and acquiring inventory at a lower cost, effective cost. Since you're not spending cash, you're just circulating value. So you're able, when you have like that flow of sellers and buyers, it's a way to create more circular relationships within your community. It's also a way to create a community around your store or brand as well.
Yeah, and usually you would incentivize customers to choose store credits. Usually for consignment, I would say merchant offer 10% more than the consignment offer. But if it's a buyout, it could be even more. It can go to up to 20% in credit than they would get in cash. So it's really a win-win.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to keep customer retention, keep them coming back to you, because you want you want your store, your brand to stand out as well. And with Trendful, you can also send store credit offers. So you don't have to just do buyouts or consignments. The workflow is relatively the same in our software to send a store credit offer, and you have your pricing strategy when you come on as a client of Trendful. You create a pricing strategy, your commission structure, which can vary based on your type of offer. So based on store credit versus consignment or buyout.
Yeah. And so if you are just starting out, don't be afraid to begin with buyouts, because otherwise you will have to get inventory another way, maybe through a wholesaler. With doing buyouts and trying to get inventory from your customers, you will access better margin. And so you can get your inventory fast as well as with good margin.
Yeah, and as you grow, and I know we mentioned this last time as well, we usually see the merchants start layering in consignment to help balancing out inventory risk, especially as your item intake volume increases. And sometimes you'll even see at this point merchants completely getting rid of buyout too and just going for consignment, because they see that's where they can have the most volume of inventory for not much risk too.
Yeah, that's right. And once you have built this strong customer base, store credit or trade-ins can give you an edge in both acquisition and retention. So that's kind of the storyline that we have noticed with merchants that have interacted with Trendful.
And also, don't worry, you can do all three models if you want. You can do buyout, consignment, store credit. You can just do one acquisition model. You can change between them. Like, you're not stuck using one specific acquisition model. Trendful software is designed to help you automate the entire process and to also scale your business. So if scaling for you looks like having only consignment, you just have to have consignment. If scaling for you means you have a combination of all three, that's completely possible. You're not stuck with only one or using all of them. So as we mentioned earlier when we were talking, we have a surprise on who is going to be our guest speaker for our next episode. You want to give it away, Mailys? Drum roll.
Drum roll. So Erica and Monica, the incredible founders of Season 2 Consign, will be joining us next episode. And they have been with Trendful since 2021 and have grown their resale business into a franchise with multiple locations. Since then, we have been really part of their journey since the start, and I've built very strong professional relationship with them. So we are so excited to have them come and explain their story.
Yes, and we're excited that they're going to talk about how they built Season 2 from, I think, just the two of them to what they're doing now with their franchise. It's going to be so great. If you are serious about resale or just love a great founder story, I think you won't want to miss it.
Yeah, don't miss it. They are gonna explain everything and about how they source inventory, how they brand themselves, and how they scale. So don't miss it. So subscribe and drop a comment if you have any question or you want us to ask Erica and Monica a specific question. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.